it's sort of a celebration of video and film content on YouTube. I think from go-ahead we had 2 weeks before the shoot to prep. I wanted to prepare for it as much as possible, and so what we did was produce a 3D animatic, which is a kind of a timed out storyboard but made in 3D software. Before you even got to the set, or before anything is even made, it sort of gives you an idea of how it'll look. Where possible, probably by stupidity, but also because I sort of enjoy a challenge. I like to try and do as much in camera. Each YouTube button in these different worlds is sort of a key to the next world, and so that became a kind of key part of the identity as well, that it unlocks the next world.
All the worlds were designed almost in reverse, saying, okay, well, if this is the end, and this is the transition of how we get out of this world, then we go backwards, and what do we see, what comes in and what comes in and what comes in.
We've got a drawing that I've already done that we're projecting and trying to trace.
This involved carefully planning out where each bit would be drawn, because the camera's moving in closer to it, so it was quite carefully choreographed, the whole thing.
Creaking doesn't sound good.
We had to move the rig backwards and forwards each time because it was how the screen was being projected on to show them where they were going to mark it up, and as the rig was in, it would cast a shadow on the thing so they wouldn't know where to draw. So we programmed the rig so each frame it would move in and out but still have the smooth move.
The mural is based on Kandinsky's style, and I guess because there's plenty of his work in the Guggenheim, that's Johnny's thought behind it.
I kind of thought with the camera moving in that we'd only have to draw chunks of it. As long as the final frame, the drawing was filling the whole composition, we'd be okay. But actually, as it turned out, we had to draw the whole thing, and it almost killed us. I think we started at 6 p.m. and finished at 4 a.m.
The aerial world we shot as a vertical wall, and so rigging it to split apart is just that bit more difficult than if you're shooting down onto the floor and you've got gravity to help you just pull the boards apart. I think during week 1 that was probably my favourite, and it stayed that way for quite a long time actually, until we just finished Green Screen World.
So this shot is basically a nod to the piece of art by Cornelia Parker, her famous exploding shed, which is lots of pieces of an exploded shed held up by fishing lines.
It's just an off-the-shelf, you know, extremely cheap and incredibly flimsy shed. Hey!
The joke is that this whole shot is a green screen shot, and we have people in green screen suits holding up the segments of the shed as though they were exploding. So I'll be drafted in to be one of these green screen people wearing one of these green screen suits.
With the forest world, there was more for the animator to do, to have branches coming in that could be moved out of the way to sort of replicate that sense of rushing through. We had to find a way to incorporate artificial and real branches to get that shot that we ended up with.
Matt did a lovely job having the light mounted on top of the camera, so that as you're travelling through these, you're only seeing what's lit right in front of you. The idea is that we're inside a computer kind of environment, and there's sort of an explosion of circuitry, so when this button pushes in, we'll replace it with a Perspex clear button. You'll have a 5K lamp behind it shining straight through onto the camera, which we can then kind of dial up.
We found some, I guess, some people might call it sticky back plastic, but it was adhesive vinyl in a really nice strong yellow colour that had a sort of satin shine to it. I think we spent a couple of 100 hours collectively cutting all that out.
One of the challenging shots was maybe the wrecking ball smashing through the wall, just because it was such a complicated network of rigs behind that wall that it was kind of difficult to make sure that they didn't all sort of collide with each other.
I think we're making progress. This is one of the trickier shots, but yeah, getting there slowly.
When the wrecking ball came through the wall, the bricks were all positioned on twisted bits of aluminium wire, but I think there were about 10 or so bricks that had to break away without sort of getting tangled with each other as they were flying away, so yeah, that was a challenge.
Theoretically, it should just be one mouse click, and everything you see that's blue will just disappear in an instant. The giant world was something that we took the dimensions from the 3D animatic, and we started off with how big does the giant's mouth need to be for the camera to enter inside, which meant it ended up being like 6 foot high. What that gave us was the ability to actually travel right inside of his mouth, down his throat basically, to this end point where you find a play button.
As we pass through into the cave, suddenly this piece of treasure becomes just illuminated in the gloom. That was quite difficult. We went through 4 or 5 different stages of the designs, and each one just didn't really do it for us. We always thought we could do better. Well, just watching the rushes back in the morning was fantastic to see that it worked.
The cave was the most fun to animate, just because I felt like I was really kind of entering that environment, because the size of it was like a little bit smaller than real scale, but I really had to sort of climb into the cave to animate it, so it felt like I was in a dark, damp place.
It had to start off looking like it was outside and then get darker and darker and darker. So we lit it quite a lot of light from the front, and some of that came through, but then we had light shining down throughout it, scraping along the rocks to kind of pick it out but still get a sense of what you were travelling through. So that was a bit of a challenge.
Well, we kind of wanted the last world to be as kind of simple and clean as possible. This is kind of a nice clean resolve.
It is genuine 24 karat gold, which is something that a couple of the people involved with the process have been very pleased with. They're very proud of the fact that, you know, you can't get any better. Actually, gold leaf, all it wants to do is stick to your fingers. So you're just sort of sat there with 2 pairs of tweezers and just really delicately laying it into position. It took an awful lot of gold to cover, because it was a large button. We were in danger of running out. I think if I'd have made a mistake, we would have run out of gold, and that would have upset the timing of everything. So yeah, I was kind of fortunate with that one.
We wanted to create a kind of series of these fantastical worlds with that kind of allude to this, the kind of different things that you find on YouTube. I also wanted to try and capture that feeling of discovery that you get on YouTube, where you never quite know what you're going to see when you press play.